I think if Sudan's war is not getting enough attention through politics and that maybe the angle, the environmental angle, will help in making these stories in Sudan reach out to the world, you know.
It's not a choice to stop or to continue. We have to.
Das sind Rawan und Reham, Journalistinnen aus dem Libanon und dem Sudan. Sie sind Teil des Green Panther MENA Workshops der Taz Panther Stiftung, in dem sich 25 Journalistinnen aus unterschiedlichen arabischsprachigen Ländern über 2 Jahre lang mit der Klimakrise in ihren Ländern beschäftigen. Und genau darüber spreche ich heute mit 2 Teilnehmerinnen des Workshops. Freie, Rede, der Podcast der Taz Panther Stiftung, in dem kritische journalistische Stimmen aus aller Welt und Deutschland zu Wort kommen. Ich bin Celine Wammer-Dittmar, freie Journalistin und ehemalige Mitarbeiterin der Taz Panther Stiftung. Und weil meine Gesprächspartnerinnen kein Deutsch sprechen, wird der Rest der Folge ab jetzt auf Englisch stattfinden. Yeah, thank you for making the time, actually. So you're in London now.
Yes, now I live in London. I left during the war and I stayed here, and now I want to see what to do next year, but...
maybe you can introduce yourself as well a little bit. What's your name, where you're from, and so on.
Okay, basically, I'm Rawan Ezzedine. I'm from Lebanon. Now I work as an editor with Khat 30. It's an Arabic website, so I work with them as an editor, and now I'm working with the Green Panther workshop as an editor too. I'm following up with several journalists from different Arab countries, and that's very interesting to see.
What did you notice with working with so many different nations and people from different backgrounds and experiences? What were like some things you noticed in working with them?
Yeah, there were really good surprises. There were really good journalists and good pieces that were written. For me, like what we were trying not to write about and work about climate change in a very abstract way that is far away from the daily life, but how to just show how the climate change is related to our daily life, and especially to many like political issues in the Middle East. Like it's not far away from that.
Yeah, I mean, we're speaking on the 4th of August, so, and this is the anniversary of the explosions, right? So, or anniversary, it happened 5 years ago exactly on the day. So I was also like, I'm always wondering, because in theory, you know, I'm the one advocating in Germany and everywhere, like we need to connect all these issues and show that they're all connected, and conflicts and wars all over the world right now, like it's all connected to the climate crisis in one way or another. But I'm always wondering, how do you actually do it on the ground when you're confronted with conflict and war that's happening right in front of your doorstep, and then to tell people, hey, this is also connected to climate change, and it's just so much more abstract than the conflict that's happening at the moment.
Yeah. It's not easy, actually. It's not easy at all but at the same time, the most important thing we have to, that's what I was saying before, when looking at the climate change, especially in the Middle East, we can't look at it like maybe in Western countries they deal with the climate change. It's totally different. So we have to look at through local eyes, for me, and in relationship with the wars and with the daily crisis that the people live. It's not an easy work because It's not an easy work because like journalists face a lot of problems because there's no documentation about the environmental crisis in my country, especially that the government and the many political parties are responsible for this crisis, for the environmental problems and especially the corruption. I don't know if I answered your question.
It's a very hard one. So it's interesting to actually hear you think about it, I think, because I don't believe if there was already like a solution or a right answer to it.
Exactly.
We probably wouldn't be talking now or doing this workshop. I was wondering if you have maybe a story in mind where you think, oh yeah, this is actually where I have done it or someone else has done it really well to connect these issues, for example, in Lebanon.
Yeah, I worked with a journalist from Syria who was talking, that story was so interesting because she was talking about hyena hunting during the war and how the people during the Syrian war, where people were just displaced and they were going out of their cities to the maybe woods and the forests to live there, or to just escape the war, and how this affected the hyenas, because the people now started living in the places where hyenas used to live, especially they are somehow shy creatures, the hyenas. So the story was very interesting because it talked about the war and how the people really faced many problems after they left their houses. And at the same time, the hyenas were facing another problem and another kind of displacement. So this is how the war affected the people and the hyenas and the environment. So it was,
It's really interesting. When did you first start to notice like impacts of environmental or like the climate crisis in Lebanon? Do you remember like moments when you started to be like, oh yeah, like climate crisis is here, or all these issues are kind of coming together?
There's no specific time, but you cannot look. Lebanon historically used to be called the Oriental Switzerland because it has a lot of woods, a lot of green mountains. So as you realize the difference between what you see in front of you and what you hear about Lebanon, that's when you realize there's a huge problem, environmental problem in Lebanon. And Lebanon is like a coastal country, really, from the north to the south. But you can't swim in the sea, maybe only specific areas because it's polluted. And this is and Lebanon is a small country, and most of the sea and swimming areas are polluted, although the people swim there now. And when you see that we have 16 rivers in Lebanon, but we still during the summer we have water shortage, that's how we know there's really a very serious climate problem in Lebanon. And what makes it worse are the wars that Lebanon faced throughout its short history, especially the last Israeli war in Lebanon, which damaged thousands of hectares of planting areas and of trees, of olive trees, where farmers used to live from those trees, from olives or from lemon trees or from. So, that's how you realize there's a huge problem with that. And at the same time, let's say the government who has to be responsible for documenting all these problems is the one who's causing such problems.
So basically the job of journalists becomes even more relevant in the way of being able to document what's happening at the moment, because you can't rely on governmental documentation or even probably too many like NGOs or anything like that at the moment.
Yeah. Yes. So it's very complicated. Exactly. The journalist jobs becomes very complicated because when you lack the resources, it becomes really hard.
Are there still, you're not in Lebanon anymore. You say there's more and more journalists also leaving, and that's an issue or becoming an issue?
Yeah, of course it will become a real problem because no one will be like documenting. We were talking about documenting and the importance of documenting and not depending on the governmental documentation. So yes, I think it will affect the country on many like levels when the journalists are leaving, and like serious journalistic investigative work will be really declining. Maybe after all what we went through in the many years, let's say in the last 10 years, from the economic crisis, from the war, from the Beirut explosion and many other problems, I think it made it, even for the people, the journalists who are working in Lebanon, it's making it hard for them, maybe because on the, let's say, psychological level, to follow up. Like many people say, I know from my colleagues, they say we want to work on lighter issues, maybe go for,
Maybe in the end, what keeps you going? I mean, you also talked about challenges, but also the mental challenge that, being confronted with all these issues forces on you. Are there any things that make you kind of like free your mind or make you keep going?
When I see, like, for me, on very personal side, when I see people suffering, especially in Gaza now, I don't have any reason to stop. And they are trying to live and continue their lives. And so I don't have any reason to stop working or documenting, because it's a matter of life and death at the end. Really, it's like that, especially after what happened in Gaza. Like, it gave me another perspective for the whole world, for the justice, for many things. So it's not a choice to stop or to continue. We have to.
Reham Abbas, and I have been passionate about journalism ever since I was a kid. I mean, even I was named after a character was acting, like an actress who was acting as her name was Reham also, and it was a famous series back then. So although my family forgot this information, but I kept it with me, like yeah. And I grew up like in Oman, and I studied architecture and environmental sustainable design in Malaysia. When I finished college and I went back to Sudan, it was like a reality check. It was a humbling experience for me, because at first it felt to me like it's another level. Like, this needs to be told. The world needs to see this. It's the way that Sudan is affected by climate change, and at the same time it's not even contributing to anything, but yet it's highly affected.
So if I understand you right, you went back to Sudan. That was 6 years.
I went back to Sudan before the war. That was my first time, not first time ever, but in a long time to be in Sudan. And I'm still trying to report after the war about the effects of the war. But I mean, reporting and journalism itself before the war, no. it was not it was not easy, just like everything else, there was a lot of difficulties in reporting.
What were those difficulties for people who don't really know the situation in Sudan?
There is a very huge issue in finding reliable data, reliable numbers. And even when there is, sometimes it's not easy to get them. The situation all in general was dangerous. So, but I didn't stop. I was reporting from afar, making phone calls and all of that, interview people, whoever is still there. So yeah, and I'll still keep on doing that.
So how do you do that?
Actually, for me, for example, in my last article, a forest has fallen. It was difficult for me to reach to a lot of people, and even like when I was reaching out to my photographer and videographer friends who I know they were there, they told me like we barely escaped. It's really difficult. We don't even have. There was one guy who told me that the RSF took all his equipment, which were actually very expensive. It was his life, investment. So they took everything from him. So he told me like, I can't even send you any pictures. What I was doing is like, I was just tracking down the people that I want to interview, and some of them are actually they seek refugee in Egypt, so I will actually call them, and some other are still in Sudan, so I will wait for the electricity to come back to where they are, and when they can find a proper network so they can actually talk to me. Otherwise I will just call them like an international phone call, because even the network will not be helpful enough to make a proper phone call. So yeah, that's it's kind of difficult to report now, and there is no numbers. No one is able to document actual numbers now. It's specifically environmentally speaking, like numbers that are like in climate or environmental numbers. No, there is no tracking or records currently for that. Yeah. So this is like, it's not easy, but even though I'm still doing this without numbers. I mean, I didn't put a lot of more numbers in my latest article because I hate numbers. So I'm trying to simplify the informations without putting big and many numbers, because even though I hate numbers, but I know it's important, so I will just I minimize the numbers as much as possible, and avoid the word climate. Yeah, because it's just I will try and use different terms so that it's more digestible and acceptable. And of course, I always rely on storytelling, because that what makes that what makes the informations more acceptable to the audience that I'm writing for. So yeah, I'm sure you know about these little tricks that we do.
I do, and that it's a thing that I've been saying that a lot in the last year. I think that I keep saying in interviews when I'm on your side, being interviewed, that I say like I try not to use the word climate anymore, because people react as if I said like the name of Voldemort from Harry Potter or something. It's a word that like where they're like, oh, nope, not gonna listen to it. How do you get your stories actually in the news, or like through your editor?
Actually, recently I have noticed that that people want to hear more stories from Sudan, especially because of the war. And I would say there's a lack of reporting on environmental effects and issues, especially after the war. So I think there is a need to know about this. Yeah, but also I'm not gonna lie, I do get that sometimes from that feeling of that it's not a priority from, especially like from editors. But when I make the link to the war, they are interested. That's what I'm saying. But if it's just a normal just, I wouldn't say use the word normal, but a regular environmental story, sometimes they're not. But even before the war, like I remember because of that time there was the revolution in Sudan. The lady who was handling all their work in Sudan, the editor, I mean, she's a senior editor. She was really kind and nice. She told me that, you know what, the headquarters will think that these environmental stories is not a priority to report about it. Like Sudan is going now through the revolution. Although I was doing environmental work inside of the, the in front of the headquarters, I was doing that. But she told me that even the editors will not be interested at all because they think there is other priorities. And also, I need to mention that even for me on a personal level, I also used to feel, not to say guilt, but it's like, how do I say it? It's just that for quite some time I felt like, how can I report about the climate and the crowd and the environment where people are dying? If I felt kind of guilty, but then I was like, for a minute there, I was like, okay, but we know that the solution is in the land, is in the environment itself. That even now during the war, people are finding solutions in, how do I say? I'll give you an example. Now that just a simple example, there's the infrastructure in Sudan is totally, especially in Khartoum, is totally ruined. So there is no electricity. What are people using now? They're using the solar panels, So this is an environmental solution. So I was like, okay, so I can still report about the environment. I know that this is the solution, and of course the land, this is the land, all these dead bodies are affecting the land. So this is another thing that needs to be raised as a journalist. So I kind of found a way to get around the, why is it important to still report even during the war? Even though, yes, people are dying, but we have to do that. It's our duty, actually.
You actually make the link in a very smart way and ask questions that people might have not asked themselves yet before.
Yeah. And actually, also, I want to add that, this war has definitely ruined it destroyed the forests. It displaced the farmers themselves. Water has been polluted. And actually, it's like, for example, for quite some time when the RSF was taking all over Khartoum, and a lot of, they were like deliberately poisoning the water wells so that people can leave the, even if there was a few people who are left in the city, they wanted the city to be emptied and of everyone. So they were like polluting the water wells in Sudan, so that so people don't have even water to drink, clean water to drink. So this is like, for me, something that I need to report about. So these farmers who have they have nothing but their own land, So yeah, there's always an environmental angle, even in war, especially in war, actually.
I read your article, and you already mentioned that your latest article on deforestation in Sudan.
This is my latest article. A forest has fallen. It was about the community forests in Sudan. Yeah. This was for me, it was an amazing story that I wanted to cover before the war. So, and then after the war, I had to, like, before the war, I just wanted the world to know that this is for a third world country that is benefiting from carbon trading. And it's actually, it's this group of women, it was female farmers, who are growing this. I wanted to show this, but then after the war, these forests are destroyed. So that was another reason for me to report about it, even though, it's one of the effects of the war, I wanted people to relate to this, and then I needed them to know the stories of these ladies, because they are actually displaced now, And the Arabic gum, I like to call it Sudanese gum, although it's called Arabic gum, but it's Sudanese gum, I wanted the world to know that this is this gum that is being used in all your products, in your L'Oreal, in your Pepsi, in your Coca-Cola, in your chocolate, is actually coming from this place that is going through this, this vicious war,
Yeah, I think you did that very well. Is there a story that you've always wanted to report on, but you couldn't so far because of access, resources, safety?
Recently, there is reports coming that in Khartoum, there was chemical weapons that have been used in Khartoum. I want to check whether that is actually correct or not. There is a lot of reports about that, but I'm not sure. I didn't dig in, actually. I still didn't do my homework yet. So this is something that I want to check also. Another story that there was this, someone told me that, a reliable resource, of course. He told me that the birds' immigration have changed in Sudan because of the war also.
It's so obvious, but I've never thought about like birds during animals, yeah. So I guess I have like 2 last questions. So I was wondering, what would you wish for people or even journalists in Europe, Germany, to understand better when reporting on Sudan, or even just know about Sudan?
Okay, well, I wish if the international journalists in general, like if I kind of feel like they kind of target like the stories that will get viral, dig deeper, and I don't think it's difficult to find things. To reach out to journalists who like me, like who's been there, who witnessed the war, who's been displaced 4 times, during this war, or during my stay before I was finally able to get out of Sudan. So I just think there should be more work. They should. This is my humble request. We are here. We can help. Sudan is a lot. And there is too many layers of what's happening in Sudan. So you just have to do your homework and understand these layers so you can report properly away from the propaganda. And the international journalists, they kind of like can reach places in Sudan because and kind of like have this level of, I'm not going to say safety, but they are, because they wouldn't be harmed or targeted like us, So I just think that if they can reach to these areas, because we can't, but they can.
Das war Freie Rede, der Podcast der Taz Stiftung, in dem kritische journalistische Stimmen aus aller Welt und Deutschland zu Wort kommen. Heute mit Rawan Ezzedine und Reham Abbas. Wenn ihr mehr Einblicke aus der MENA-Region zu dem Thema Klima und Konflikte bekommen wollt, kauft euch die Taz am 15. November. In einer Sonderbeilage könnt ihr die Beiträge der Journalistinnen aus den 16 unterschiedlichen Ländern nachlesen und später auch auf taz.de oder im Original auf Arabisch auf kha30.com. Den Link dazu findet ihr in den Shownotes. Das Projekt Green Panther MENA läuft noch bis September 2026 weiter. Vielen Dank an dieser Stelle an alle SpenderInnen der Taz Stiftung, die dieses und viele weitere Projekte überhaupt möglich machen. Besonderer Dank gilt dem Auswärtigen Amt, die dieses Projekt finanziell unterstützt. Wenn ihr dieses oder andere Projekte der Taz Stiftung auch unterstützen wollt, dann freuen wir uns sehr über eine Spende.